If you're into creepypasta, monsters, or just horror in general, you've likely heard his name, Trevor Henderson. Maybe you know him as SlimySwampGhost, to each their own. Found footage phenom, abyssal art expert, the Canadian horror illustrator has been posting his terrifying creations online for years and has recently been launched into the viral spotlight with a second wave of Siren Head popularity. While it may be his most well-known creature, it's simply one example of the fear-inducing freaks he's dreamed up. There are dozens of creatures, all just as creepy in his repertoire. We're all just waiting for a few more to acquire meme god status and maybe cross over into our living world. Hello horror heads, and welcome back to the scariest channel on YouTube, Top 5 Scary Videos. I'm your horror host, Keegan Hughes, and today we're going to be taking a look at the top 5 scary Trevor Henderson creatures. Before we get started, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe for more digital demons. If you find yourself particularly enthused by any of these creatures, make sure to check out more of Trevor's art at the source and maybe buy a print or two. Artist Gotta Eat. Links to all of his stuff are down in the description. Perfect, let's get going. Coming in at number 5, we've got the Smile Room. Teeth. Any instance of dental demonism just freaks me right out. So the Smile Room is particularly upsetting. Just looking at the most well-known instance is a terrifying ordeal. Imagine opening a door and it's just teeth on the other side. No nightmares compare. The horror doesn't stop at the visual shock either. It keeps going and going. The Smile Room was a name given to this creature after the original sighting. Some teens broke into an amusement complex known as Neb's Fun World and wandered around. Eventually they came across a door labeled the Smile Room and must have opened it up to see what was inside. I've been to Neb's before and I can attest that there is no such room. Now, I say they must have opened the door because nobody really knows what happened to them. A friend was waiting outside and didn't hear from them for hours. He went inside and found one of their phones discarded on the ground. It's on this device that the ever-famous image of gigantic teeth taking up a doorway was found. The owner of the phone, though, was never discovered. Upon investigating, nobody was able to find the Smile Room at Neb's, but it has appeared elsewhere. It seems that the room itself isn't a fixed location, but a creation of a host. The host being will move from place to place, creating similar false rooms and luring people in. It's unknown what happens to individuals who enter such a room. However, Trevor tweeted a picture of a humanoid entity known as the Smile Room host, implying that victims may be transformed into beings meant to attract more victims, teeth, and traps. How terrifying. Coming in at number 4, we've got the Country Road Creature. Let's just say you don't want this country road taking you home. West Virginia mountain mamas, beware. This creature feels like the physical embodiment of creepypasta at its core. It's a long-limbed, pale humanoid that stalks the dark, forested roads at night. The only images of it seem to be captured quickly while it's on the move. Anything more would be too much to bear. Uncanny Valley doesn't even begin to describe the pit of terror this beast opens up in your stomach. It has human features, but is entirely inhuman. Often when displayed in a photo, it will have noticed the photographer and turned its grotesque head to look at them. I can't imagine they would have lasted much longer after snapping the shot. The Country Road Creature is known for hunting humans on back roads in its spider-like form, but has also been seen in other situations. Some have claimed to encounter it in cities and even in their homes, with its long clawed hands making appearances on the sides of buildings and in stairwells. The worst bit, though, is that this abomination can possibly take quasi-human form. It's hypothesized that it can shrink down to normal human size and don clothing to trick people into feeling safe. Then, when their guard is down, it can demolish them. A Trojan horse for the modern internet era. Coming in at number 3, we've got bridge worms. Beware those who wear false faces. It's good advice, especially when dealing with these guys. These infrastructure-dwelling beasts tend to wear a false face that looks a little like strong sad. Don't let the marshmallowy, melancholic mug trick you into asking it what's wrong, though. Get too close and they'll show you their real face. The skin pulls back from their front-facing visage and reveals quite a horrific, fleshy mess of sinew and teeth. It's really quite disturbing. A bridge worm will spend a good deal of its time lurking under bridges, as the name implies. They keep their sad face on, hoping to lure unsuspecting prey in. Once the prey is close enough, they will devour them and set up for their next victim. Of course, as the bridge worm continues to find prey, their reputations grow. This means that people might start avoiding their bridges, leading to depleted food supplies. If this happens, bridge worms have been known to leave their lairs under cover of darkness to seek more nutrition. So it is very possible that one might run into a gigantic white mask-wearing predator while out and about at night. It seems that bridge worms become more sophisticated as they age too. Their facial markings become more expressive and their bodies become larger and more muscular. Even a young bridge worm is a dangerous threat. Imagine encountering a fully grown one. The more people they encounter, the more they learn about hunting us. Good luck out there. Coming in at number 2, we've got Cartoon Cat. Now we're into the truly evil stuff. A lot of the monsters we talked about earlier are creatures of habit. They hunt to live or just because it's all they know. But Cartoon Cat is a sadistic, malicious being hell-bent on causing pain and agony. It's a terror above other terrors. Taking on the form of a huge animated cat, this big-eyed beast is a force to be reckoned with. Often it'll show up in photos where you can only see its cartoonish eyes and sharp, grisly teeth. At first, it only seemed like Cartoon Cat was stalking people, but as more information cropped up, folks started to realize how sinister it really was. Many people have vanished after being followed by Cartoon Cat, and information about these disappearances is hard to come by. In fact, a lot of information about Cartoon Cat in general is redacted and expunged, giving the impression that there's some stuff too terrifying for our sensitive little eyes. Trevor himself ranks this retro creature very highly on the danger scale. He claims that other monsters and cryptids actively avoid it if they know what's good for them, and that a lot of Cartoon Cat's powers come from unchecked limitations. That's not a phrase you want associated with the sadistic monster now, is it? Add in some apparent shape-shifting abilities and you've got a truly upsetting cat. The 30s style cartoonishness extends beyond just aesthetics too. Cartoon Cat has the ability to warp and bend and stretch and commit acts of atrocious violence, just like cartoon characters from that era. He's malleable, in short. This lets him defy the laws of physics in ways that many other creatures could only dream of. It would be quite the upsetting sight to behold too. Think about it. If you saw a black and white cartoonish cat shifting and changing before your eyes, wouldn't you want to scrub your brain out with a wire brush? Be honest. And finally, at number 1, we've got the man with the upside down face. If there's one Henderson-verse creature that can compete with Cartoon Cat for the position of head honcho, it's this guy. Get it? Head honcho? I'll see myself out. Not only is this man horrible to look at, he tends to enact some of the most heinous evil possible to get his rocks off. The man with the upside down face has appeared near countless tragic accidents and disasters. Car crashes, house fires, train wrecks, you name it. He'll be there. In fact, it's possible that he influences a lot of these awful occurrences. Looking through historic photographs, you're likely to see this fellow in the backgrounds of all sorts of images featuring massive amounts of human suffering. He somehow feeds on these negative emotions. They sustain him. I'm sure once he found this out, he sought to cause more agony than ever before. And I'm sure you already knew this, but the man's face is upside down. The rest of him seems to be pretty normal, but the face definitely stands out. This might not seem too scary, but it is jarring when you pick him out of a crowd. You'll never find him in a real crowd though. Whenever he's causing trouble, he'll be invisible to the naked eye. It's only afterwards, when photos are developed, that one might be able to see his flipped lid. In the end, the man is a hateful leech. He's been described as a bottom feeder and is drawn to tragedies that occur. I think my favorite description of him comes from Trevor himself, who says that out of all his monsters, the man with the upside down face is the pettiest asshole of the bunch. A glowing review from the man upstairs. Coming in at number 5, we've got Longhorse. To be honest, I didn't even consider Longhorse for our first video. The lengthy lad doesn't exactly qualify as monster in my eyes. They're definitely more friend than foe. But hey, I think there were at least a dozen requests for our equine interlopers, so I'll include the stretchy soothsayer this time. Admittedly, Longhorse is a very scary creature to look at. It has a horse-like skull that always seems to be floating in the air. The skull is supported by a seemingly infinitely long body that tends to bend and twist at impossible angles. Nobody's ever seen a Longhorse end. The long, constantly cracking neck will always disappear behind something before anyone can get to the source. It doesn't follow the rules of linear space and can really appear from anywhere. If this wasn't a friendly fellow, it would be pretty terrifying, but thankfully Longhorse smells like cinnamon and wants to be of help. Ancient depictions of this creature show it helping out humans, often protecting them from danger and warning them of impending disaster. So it's been around for a while and often lends a helping hand to those who might need it. It even enters dreams to do so at times. The non-linearity of its movement seems to mean that it can teleport to different locations to warn of doom. Some say that Longhorse is Siren Head's eternal rival, with the two creatures at odds about how to treat humans. Siren Head being a murderous lunatic and Longhorse attempting to keep folks alive. Still, it's hard to look at a spatially anomalous creature with a loudly cracking neck and think, friend. Coming in at number 4, we've got Big Charlie. Anyone who has witnessed footage from a factory farm or something similar will feel this one a little extra. Big Charlie is a fleshy abomination that's always growing. It was discovered after escaping the slaughterhouse where it was being held. Somebody reported a mangy cow wandering the highway to animal control, and when they discovered how strange it was, the SCP Foundation got involved. When Big Charlie was born, the folks working the slaughterhouse didn't know what to do. It was extremely gross looking and didn't really react to anything. They tried killing it, first with a cattle gun, then by cutting its throat. When neither worked, they literally butchered it where it stood. Cutting off all the flesh until only bone remained, the butchers assumed that it would die soon after. But instead, all the flesh grew back. Big Charlie can't be killed. Some accept it for what it is, free utility-grade beef. Some avoid it as best they can because it's not natural. And some, like the owner of the slaughterhouse, worship Big Charlie as a religious idol. To each their own, I suppose. If being fed mysterious, ever-regenerating meat doesn't concern you, Big Charlie's appetite might. It's not generally dangerous to humans, but does have a wicked hankering for just about everything. It'll eat hay, grass, bricks, even other cows. So don't get too close or you might end up being assimilated into the meat monster. From time to time, flesh will simply fall away from Big Charlie's body. When this happens, the bits and pieces often become creatures themselves. There's the lamb, which takes on the appearance of a tall, four-legged sheep consisting entirely of flesh. And then there's Nugget, the lovable little meatball who skitters around and eats crackers. Oh, nice. Coming in at number 3, we've got the Garbager. If you thought raccoons were a little freaky, then you're not ready for this one. Lock up your trash real tight unless you're willing to come face to face with a monster. If you do end up leaving some rotten garbage out in the open, you might be treated to the sounds of rummaging and foraging. Look out the window and you could see the Garbager. This red-faced quadruped is attracted to refuse and litter from yesterday's hunt, if you know what I mean. It's unknown why the Garbager's face is red. Some think it's covered in blood, while others say it's just a coloration. Dark eyes and a hole for a mouth are set in the red dome, and the rest of its body is a dingy gray. Nobody's commented on how it smells, but I would assume based on its interests that it just smells terrible. But just because it has a horrid odor doesn't mean that it's all bad. Apparently if you leave trash out that it finds appealing, you might be rewarded with a gift. Rotten food is the Garbager's favorite. Some of the gifts it's been known to leave for those who donate spoiled supper include shiny rocks, fruit peel arrangements, bones, shells, feathers, bottle caps, foil, and at one point, a singular glove. Huh, I guess it is kind of nice now that I think about it. Like the tooth fairy of garbage, but instead of money you get slightly nicer garbage. Alright, Garbager, you get a pass. It still looks really creepy though. I think twice about putting out the garbage after dark. Coming in at number 2, we've got the God of Roadkill. Yeah, that doesn't sound good. Doesn't look good either. I mean, it looks wicked, but I wouldn't want to drive past that on a country road late at night. This thing is hideous, and I don't trust those eyes. As big as a van, this giant skinless, featherless bird crawls around roads at night using its long skeletal arms. In all likelihood, the God of Roadkill may have originated as Roadkill himself. He is missing legs after all. Let's consider that face though. The God of Roadkill's eyes don't look real. In fact, they appear to be drawn on. That white, sharp, bony face might very well be a mask, and if that's the case, I do not want to see what's behind it. No, thank you. Nobody seems to know what this creature's purpose is, though. Maybe it's a memorial figure standing witness to all the innocent creatures splattered across concrete and asphalt every day. Folks tend to encounter it while driving at night and will often crash soon after. Could this be a sort of revenge against the motorists who ran over animals on the road? According to Trevor, the God of Roadkill is meant to take souls to the other side. So it could be an agent of death or any number of other underworld servants. Definitely something that you don't want to spot while taking a late night drive. Trevor also says that the God of Roadkill is always sad and angry, which makes sense considering that this idol represents all these squashed and splattered beings seen on roadways around the world. And finally at number 1, we've got breaking news. While I do know that breaking news can often be scary, I'm not referring to the 24-hour news cycle. This time I'm talking about the gigantic creature walking about leveling buildings and causing general chaos. It's known as breaking news because it tends to be reported as such, with terrifying images attached to the newscasts. Nobody knows the origins of these horrid beasts, and their goals are a total mystery. The humanoid is big enough to destroy entire cities, walking about like a kaiju and flattening buildings. In fact, in many of the places it's shown up, nearby settlements end up being totally abandoned for fear of it returning. Even if there were only one, we'd have plenty to worry about, but it is likely that there are more out there. They've been spotted in different areas over relatively large distances, leaving some to speculate that there could be many gigantic humanoids spreading destruction. If this is the case, we're in great danger. Coming in at number 5, we've got Anxious Dog. Oh boy, this isn't your average canine companion. Definitely not something you want in the house with you, and don't even think about trying to pet its belly. This creature is a pale, semi-humanoid that appears to be hanging out upside down. It's got no eyes and a big human mouth that sits in the middle of its head. Yuck. It has a habit of lurking around just outside of door frames. You look at it and only catch a glimpse of parts of its body. You never really see the lower half. Most of the time it's been seen walking around on its hands with the eyeless face contorted and twisted to face whoever's unfortunate enough to witness it. After all this description, you might be wondering, why is it called Anxious Dog? Well, it's not because it looks like a dog. No, it's because of the sound it makes. If this thing is nearby, you might hear the sounds of nails clacking against the floor. You know, like that of an anxious dog pacing in the hallway. Yuck, I don't want to imagine what its feet look like then. Even though it lurks, don't take it lightly. This beast has been known to get quite violent very suddenly. One moment it's hanging out just outside your reach, the next it's tearing you to shreds and smiling with its awful face mouth. If you hear some clicky clacking and you don't have a pet, get the hell out of there. Coming in at number 4, we've got Watchtower. While a good deal of Henderson's creatures are scary and malevolent, a few manage to be guardian spirits of sorts. Longhorse is a particularly well-known example of this, and today we'll add another to that canon, Watchtower. Trevor posted this cryptid a while ago with the caption, Watchtower, protector, cryptid, and mascot of a certain small town that chooses to remain anonymous. Pretty neat, right? It appears to be a gigantic creature with horns sprouting from its head, or maybe tree branches. Either way, it gives off the appearance of a forest dweller, which makes sense considering it's protecting a small town in the boonies. But what's it protecting the townsfolk from? If you need a monster on your side in order to stay safe, you can probably bet whatever you're going against is pretty scary. Sheesh, maybe we don't need to think too deeply on this one. Even though it's friendly to those outside of the ones it wants to protect, Watchtower can be downright dangerous. Its size alone is enough to stop folks in their tracks. Add in the antler branch things and the ability to take down some horrid beasts, and you'd better be careful. Prove to be dangerous to those its duty is to protect, and get put in the ground. It's just simple logic, right? Other renders of this beast seem to show it with 4 legs and a long neck, kind of giraffe-like. In fact, it sort of reminds me of the forest-dwelling beast from The Ritual, which kind of serves the same purpose, doesn't it? It's a little more violent and demanding of worship, but I wouldn't be surprised if these two were cut from the same cloth. If you're interested in coming face to face with this cryptid, start visiting small towns. Ask around about their mascot, or cause some dangerous trouble. You'll get faster results with that second strategy, but probably get taken down too. Coming in at number 3, we've got the Meatgrinder. Oh, doesn't that sound nasty? It's actually a little more familiar than you might think, even if it's harder to find these days. We all know Siren Head, right? The super tall, lanky beast with the ability to make pretty much any noise. It eats humans, lives in the woods, it's covered in leathery skin. Well, there's a few variants on this popular cryptid. Yep, we've seen classic Siren Head, we've seen ones that look like streetlights or have multiple sirens, and there have even been ones that shapeshift. But there's a new Siren Head variant in town, and it's more fearsome than ever. Known as the Meatgrinder, this thing is terrifying. It's more squat and stout than the stereotypical Siren Head, giving it a shorter stature. Being less tall doesn't make it less dangerous though. It seems to be covered in some sort of glistening red flesh, giving off the impression of being freshly skinned. It also has blood and other viscera pouring from its toothy siren mouth, and I don't know if I'm confident in calling it its blood or blood from some prey. Either way, pretty gross. It likes to live in colder rural areas, so they can be found up north more often than not. Maybe there's a tie-in with The Thing. And to make matters even scarier, the Meatgrinder tends to be more aggressive than regular Siren Heads. No blending in necessary, and I doubt it would be good at camouflage anyway. For whatever reason, Trevor deleted this creation and hasn't really addressed it since. Maybe it's part of something bigger to come, or maybe it's simply too dangerous to leave up. Doesn't inspire confidence. Coming in at number 2, we've got 98-8-13. This name simply comes from a Polaroid-style photograph taken of a creature. On a dirt road at night, someone caught a glimpse of a red ghostly figure. They snapped a picture with an old camera of some sort and then it disappeared. This photo seems to be the only thing remaining from that encounter. Eerie. In the bottom corner, you can see the numbers 98-8-13 in orange text. The rest of the picture seems kind of uninteresting. That is, until you notice the red figure off in the distance. It's not immediately noticeable, but once you see it, you can't take your eyes off it. This thing is just standing there, menacingly. It always seems to have a bit of an unnatural lean to it too, almost as if it's about to fall over, but never does. Multiple pictures have been taken of this odd creature, and most of them show that it has a largely emotionless face. But one in particular that was taken near a body of water really turns the creepiness up to 10. It's standing up straight between 2 tall, skinny trees. It seems to have noticed the camera and is looking right at whoever snapped this shot. The face is emotionless, but the eyes are especially haunting. Something about this makes me doubt the poor photographer made it out alive. And finally, coming in at number 1, we've got Day 17. We discussed breaking news last time. Now let's talk about its counterpart, Day 17. Unfortunately, we may have mixed up 2 when putting up pictures, but I'm sure you can forgive us. Day 17, also known as the Wandering Faith, is a fascinating beast, one that could end us all. The thing absolutely towers over man-made structures and is often unable to have its whole body captured in one image. Usually, its head will poke up above the clouds and out of frame. That's a big monster. Often the beast is accompanied by an emergency storm warning. Whether this means that it brings bad weather with it or someone with a lot of influence wants us to avoid seeing it is up for debate. But weather generation isn't too far-fetched considering the allure surrounding the Wandering Faith. Take that name for a moment. Faith. Makes one think of religion, right? Maybe a god? Well, it seems like this beast also ascends people to heaven, or something similar in concept. In one of the posts featuring it, Trevor included a caption that says, "Please stay inside until further notice unless you or a loved one has been pre-chosen." Pre-chosen, eh? Sounds like a rapture of sorts now, doesn't it? So this gigantic beast takes people to a holy place, I don't know if that's scary necessarily, unless you're not pre-chosen, which I guess I'm not. Uh-oh. Man, how does he come up with all these? Let alone draw them and make them believable. It's a talent that only some have claim to, but at least we all get to experience it. What did you think of the list? Which of these creatures is your favorite? What's your favorite Trevor Henderson creature of all time? Make sure you let me know down in the comments. Speaking of comments, let's take a look at some of your more crunchy ones. Me top 5 weirdest horror movie monsters. Noise F7 says, "Killer tomato, killer condom, and you don't talk about rubber, the tire who can make the head of people explode and move on its own. Apparently looking for love, according to the trailer." Robert the Tire isn't a monster, he's a revolutionary, a saint, a demigod. Renato Corvaro says, "Damn it, Keegan, even with the beard, I can still see the mustache." What do you think? Should I go for like the chin strap or the soul patch? No. Or maybe a goatee? Evan Legros says, "Imagine killer soap." Okay, so basically you can't shower with soap without dying. Yep, have fun being dirty forever. Well, there's some pretty insane potential for kills there. Plus, people usually feel that they're the most vulnerable when closing their eyes in the shower, so you can work that in too. Although, I've already got the solution, body wash. And David Bosnight says that's a difficult list to make, with there being a vast amount of monsters to consider. I almost lost myself just thinking about them all. Digging your pattern button-ups, by the way. That's the beauty of monsters. There's always gonna be more. And thank you, I try to get a little snazzy from time to time. And that's all the time we have for today. Before I catch a cold and try to enter a government research lab, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe for more slimy silliness. Make sure to check out Trevor's work if you're looking for more monsters. Links are in the description. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. If you're into Trevor's work, make sure to check out his social media. Why can't I say that?
I'm pretty sure that there's an anxious dog outside.
Emma, no! It's the monster! Don't tell me that!
Say that if your dog start barking. It hurt you.
God. Okay, well, if I turn up dead, that's what happened. Unfortunately, we will. But at least we get to experience. Nope.